Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to everyone. Really great to have you all. I'm Kevin Allen, Chief Community Officer here at OpenEXO. And we always love to start by understanding where everybody is calling from. And so I am going to change my face to a map. And if you can in the chat, just share where in the world you are calling in from today. You can just put the city there, and it should all start popping up on this map. Hopefully, the technology is going to work. I see a lot of uh, cities coming in, but ultimately, it is not showing up on the map. So technology, unfortunately, not doing a great job with us today. So let me come back to me, and we can just read those out. So great to see folks from all over the world. John in Melbourne in Australia. Wow, it must be 3 a.m. or something. So that's really great. But we can see that we got folks from literally all over the world here joining us today, which is really awesome. So thank you so much for joining us. It's a real pleasure to have you. And so I am going to do a little bit of housekeeping at the beginning of the call today. So the first thing is just if you can make sure that you have your name on Zoom, so you can always just click on yourself and rename yourself so that you're not iPhone or iPad. We have a few of those in the room. This is a really interactive session, so seeing your faces is really what we want to see. So if you, that'll be great if you can share your face and participate. We're going to do a lot of messages in the chat, but also there will be time for people to discuss and to ask questions. And so with that, ultimately today we are here to really provide you with a ton of really good information and ways that you can rewrite your organization. If this is the first time you're actually joining us, it would be great if you could just put a 1 in the chat. If you're joining us for a second time, third time, you can put a 2 in the chat, and so we can then see how many folks are here for the first time. So quite a lot of 1s, a few 2s. Great to have all the people coming back, especially our pro members who are joining us. Really great to have you. And so today we are going to be diving deep. Jill will share the workbook link. So we have a workbook, which is an HTML page, which you can fill in. And as we go through that, you're going to be able to walk away with a plan, and near to the end of today, Kent's going to actually show you how you can leverage what we build today inside of our Claude skill, or you could do it in the Codex skill too, but I think Kent's going to show us with Claude. And one thing we'll also speak about today is about our OpenEXO Pro membership, where we help people to drive their companies forward to be AI native. And so if everybody feels good to go, I can then introduce Salim and get Salim up on screen. So if maybe you can give a thumbs up. Is everybody ready, good to go? I see we have the majority of the people who signed up here. So it's always nice to see some thumbs up there. Amazing. So thanks for that. I am going to find Salim here and bring him up into the spotlight.
I'm hiding in the crowd.
Salim, over to you to kick things off.
Excellent. Welcome, everybody. We had our meaning of life session yesterday, so I see some names from that. Some few people will be looking a bit blurry-eyed because we went rather late last night. but fun setup. So we want to talk today about how do you build yourself and create an AI native organization. We've been on this journey for over a decade now when we wrote the original Exponential Organizations book, where we first kind of looked at what the future of organizations looks like, and how do you build organizations that can scale as fast as you can scale technology. That was the original thesis of the original 2014 book called Exponential Organizations. We did a second edition on in 2023. Um, but then when agentic AI came along, we had to look at that and go, well, agentic AI kind of breaks the model, and we have to rethink the whole thing. And so we've done that work, and we have a very clear sense of now how things play out, and we'll be talking through that today. So let me share my screen and take you folks through a few slides. We'll have some time for Q&A if you have any. And let me share that. Kevin, let me know if you guys can see that.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to dive straight in. We have a monster shift in every organization, and I mean every organization, every government department, impact project, nonprofit company in the world that is hitting us. And this is why we call it an organizational singularity, because in 1937, an economist called Ronald Coase wrote a paper with a thesis that big companies exist because you can coordinate activity cheaper inside the company than outside the company. And therefore, companies will keep getting bigger as we create more and more efficiency inside organizations. John Hagel and John Seely Brown noted in about 19, maybe 1990s, that big companies are really good at predictability and efficiency, right? And just progressing from that thinking. Ronald Coase actually won the Nobel Prize for this thinking. The problem, and the original thesis was, if you look at the Ford Model T assembly line, it was cheaper to build a car inside the company than contracting for goods and services outside, and therefore you had a big markup. And became the basis for the modern organization. And pretty much all organizational design theory follows from that. But something massive broke over the last 6 months, which is that today it's cheaper to do things outside the company than inside the company. If you're in a company and you try and get a web page built, the IT guys don't have time, the CIO hates you, the branding people want to have a list, the lawyer wants to go, hey, this has to conform, etc. And yet you can step home using Vercel and build it in AI in 5 minutes for free, right? And so that's a monster thing. Todd Saunders put out a text, an X post, a tweet saying, today it's cheaper to build a product feature than to have the meeting about building the product feature. And the fact that that's true blows your mind. Like, it's just insane that that's true. So we've had a monster inflection point, and the problem is that you still need the company. By the way, that doesn't disappear. You need the company as a brand container, as a liability container, as a fiduciary, as an MTP or purpose container, as a legal liability container. So you end up with, we still have what we call the fiduciary wedge. The accountability still sits with the company, but you can outsource a lot of the coordination and execution to AI going forward. Certainly for prescriptive workflows, and most companies try and make workflows as prescriptive and bog standard and repeatable as possible. We have a huge problem today that more than 85% of AI projects are failing in big companies around the world. And we have a very simple thesis for this. If you try and put AI into a legacy hierarchical human-to-human bottleneck, all you're doing is accelerating the bottlenecks, right? And therefore, no wonder it's going to fail. The visual I use is when we first created television, we put radio announcers on TV and had them read radio scripts on television. You're not using the medium at all. It took a while before we developed sitcoms and drama series and reality shows, et cetera, et cetera. But initially, we were just using taking the old and putting on the new. And the problem was that most radio announcers are not good looking enough to be on television. And so you had this massive inefficiency. That's what's happening with AI today. We're trying to bolt AI into legacy systems, and it's completely failing. You need to redesign the firm and the organization completely to rethink from the bottom up what a future of an organization looks like that moves from human hierarchy centered to being AI native centered. Okay. And that's a very, very big shift. Because we've been working with companies, helping them to do disruptive things at the edge for a decade. We work with Siemens Energy, Procter and Gamble, Black and Decker, HP, Visa, etc. We just finished a $1 million project with Siemens Energy to rebuild a bunch of good ideas at the edge of the company. We have a lot of practice with our community in building things on the edge. And we've come up with a completely new architecture for what the firm looks like. And it's called MTP, which is your massive transformative purpose, drive, and shape. Just as a small example, MTP was this like poster on the wall saying Uber, everybody should have a private driver. And every employee looked at that broad purpose statement and gave them guidance on it. Well, if an AI agent is going to be running execution, the MTP turns from just a poster on the wall to being an actual protocol, right? That dictates what will the company do or not do, what are the boundary conditions, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is a huge shift. And so we've documented this all. The book is free to read on the website, and you can actually download it as a Claude skill. So people are downloading the book as a Claude skill and running their companies with it. Okay. And at the heart of it is what we call the intelligence stack. And this is similar to what John Boyd used to call an OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, act. The military uses this a great deal. You have this core intelligence layer, set of agent layers at the very heart of it that makes major decisions. For example, let's say you're a trucking company and a competitor announces refrigerated trucks. This sensing layer goes, hey, new thing, competitor on the market. Then there's an interpretation layer that says, okay, what does that mean? How big is that market? Should we do anything about it? Then it goes to a decision layer on, should we launch a new line of business? Should we ignore them because they think they're going to fail? Should we lease a couple of trucks and try this out on our own? And then it goes to an execution layer, and a human being, the C-suite, is hitting yes at each layer. Okay, and around this whole thing is a governance and assurance loop where every AI agent needs to have very trusted evaluation capabilities, rollback capability. It should be logging everything it does, and a very comprehensive human review queue, because it turns out these AI agents are like rogue junior employees. They're going off doing crazy things and they need a lot of oversight. But because you can have agents looking over the agents, the cost of doing this is fairly low. So that becomes the heart of every company going forward, because you're going to have agents talking to other people's agents and calling on APIs, and we really need a tight control on what they're doing. Here's the question I would ask, and I ask CEOs all the time. Is there a high margin line of business in your company that two people with Hermes or OpenClaw could replicate in 60 or 90 days? Okay. And this is an important question. If the answer is, if you had a scale of 1 to 5, if you're 3 or higher, where somebody could replicate a high margin line of business, then you have an actual emergency, because there's a million people with 500,000 OpenClaws trying to do that right now, all over the world. Okay. And so this is the very big question. And let me ask this question to the audience. Just for your own company, can you put into the chat, on a scale of 1 to 5, how disruptable are you with two guys? So could somebody take a high margin line of business and rebuild it for yourself? So just give us a score on 1 to 5 where you think you are in this. Right? 1 means no, we've got totally proprietary data or regulatory moat and we can't do it. 5 is, yeah, we do content marketing and that's disruptable in 2 seconds, right? And you can see there's a reasonable number of 3s, 4s, and 5s here, which means that this is a very big deal. This is why we're here, okay? And so, very, very key question. This is the question you should go straight to the board with and go, hello, we have to do something, okay? The question is then, what do you do? Because we see this total radical change. The top 20% of the company does very well because they're helping AI agents do things. The bottom 20% will be automated, but will be doing oversight and The human goes above the loop in this, but middle management gets shrunk dramatically because what does middle management do except they coordinate activity, take information from one place and make it available to another place, or they take senior leadership decisions and help cascade it down. Well, AI can do a lot of that, and so the middle management gets radically compressed in this future. Now, the big question becomes how do you move to this architecture? It's pretty clear as we're watching companies build in this that are AI native, they're delivering performances about 100x the legacy. So if if your legacy content marketing agency was generating 5 pieces of content a month, an AI native agency is generating 500 pieces of native marketing content a month, right? So we're seeing about 100x uh, um, improvement in if you can build your company in this way. So the really big question becomes how do you get there? Okay. And if you're over 50 people, our thesis is really simple. Go to the edge of the company and start moving workflows over onto this AI native stack one by one. If you're below 50 people, brute force it. The CEO probably knows everybody by their first name, and you can go fully into it. Okay. Uh, Manisha is asking, saying every business is disruptable. The whole question is how long disruption takes. Very good point. There are some that will take longer. I'll give you a few guides here. One is, do you have proprietary data that nobody else has access to? Number two, do you have regulatory protection? Like you need a CPA to sign off on audits, and therefore it's not easy to disrupt that. Do you have brand protection? You have a very strong brand, and therefore customers flock to you because of that, etc. And so there's some protection you have, but her point is very valid. It's a when, not an if, that you get it disrupted, right? Over time, you will be. So the way you do this is you have your core organization at the edge. You build this intelligence stack. You create a digital twin at the edge of the company. Have it report directly to the CEO. Okay, nobody else. Never to the CFO. Although they're very nice people, but their interest is different. Okay. And then you start moving workflows over one by one. When you see a workflow running AI native that's operating in a self-recursive and it's improving itself at every loop, which is what an AI native workflow will do, then you slowly start deprecating the old, and little by little, you've built yourself an AI native organization. You may know that we're running a pilot with 10 companies to start this process. We're working with 10 CEOs of very different companies so we can learn a lot. And we're opening up a new cohort of people that are interested in that. If you're interested, we'll send you a link. We've already seen this happen in a couple of sectors. Okay, if you look at contact call centers, we went through human call centers, then you had AI-enabled chatbots, and now call centers are almost completely AI native, and you've changed the game completely. I mentioned already content marketing, that we've gone through that, which used to be agency centric, and then it was AI assisted, but still agency centric, and now it's totally AI native. And content marketing agencies are in deep doo-doo trying to figure out their future in all of this. Okay. We have developed a very comprehensive kind of methodology for how you move to A to B, right? So first you pick a destination architecture. What should it look like? Then you do what's called a backcasting, which gives you a plan and a timeline. You assess your company. You start moving workflows over. This will be a very turbulent transition. By the way, I'm going through like 2 hours of stuff in like 6, 8 minutes here. So if you feel it's a bit dense, we can get into it later. I mentioned already, we think the future of the firm is going to be very different and unbelievably more highly performant. As a macro statistic, I think we'll be running companies with about 20% of the employees that we have today to run a company. And people freak out going, oh my God, 80% unemployment. No, I think we'll be creating 10 times more companies. So I don't think the macro effect will be there. Okay. You still end up with some things that survive. Okay. Some things that don't survive are a 5-year plan. The org chart is you used to have it. Middle management as a coordination layer. quarterly strategy reviews. It needs to be real time. What survives is your massive purpose as a protocol, the accountability shell, or what we call the fiduciary wedge, the proprietary intelligence. That's the core. When you can get proprietary workflows going, you learn faster than anybody else, and that's your safety net for the future. Because if you can learn faster than anybody else, then you do better. You see what's happening at the broader lab level, where Anthropic and OpenAI have moved very quickly ahead of Grok and Gemini and Meta, because they've got that inner learning loop and they're building their models faster. Okay. And so proprietary data becomes a really important thing. So our focus today is to help you do this. Either you don't have resilience, or you don't have a system, or you don't have a plan. We're going to focus on the plan part of it and help you create a plan and a roadmap for moving your company to this model. Okay. So that's the broader question. So I want to get a sense in the chat. Are any of the companies providing physical services? Yes, supply chain. We've got a bunch of those, Kevin. Um, Proprietary intelligence can leak with people starting new businesses. Yes, it can. Uh, Organizations larger than 50 people, the back office type functions are a natural starting point. Yes, they are, because in back office you have a lot of prescriptive processes that are working. So let's ask a quick question for the audience. Um, are you ready to start working on your organization? Put a one if you are, a two if you're freaked out, and the answer is no. Um, Everybody, hopefully, on this call should be getting a one. Somebody said one and two. Yeah, yes, very, very valid point. Okay, so let me move to the next slide. And remember, the cost of coordinating and execution is collapsing. Okay, the org chart is an artifact of your legacy organization, so you really need to rethink this. And what we're going to do now is run um, a kind of a diagnostic with you on how to think about this. Okay, so the future of the firm will be not be measured by how big the company is. It'll be measured by the density of your intelligence stack and how quickly can you make decisions. Okay, so just anchor on that just for a second, and we'll talk through that a bit more. Okay, so let me ask a question for the audience here. In your companies, um, where is the biggest bottleneck? Okay, so just type into the chat, where is the biggest bottleneck in your organization? Okay, centralized teams. Somebody said me. Yeah, I know that feeling. Um, Upper management approval. Yes. Decision loops. Um, Manufacturing capacity. Interesting. Onboarding new users. Excellent. Hiring. Yes. Uh, uh, Andrew, if you've got an AI agent native environment, hiring is tough. Regulatory interpretation. Interesting. Um, Decision loops. So you can see some themes appearing here, where the speed of decision making, upper level, upper management approval is very central, right? It keeps popping up again and again, which is where we can make the biggest difference with AI. Okay. Um, um, okay. Um, let's ask the next question in terms of how we think about this. Um, Put a one in the chat if you're below 50 people, and two if you're above 50 people. I just want to gauge this. Okay, good, lots of ones, a few twos. So maybe 70% one. Okay, so if you're a one, you shouldn't brute force this. Grab all your team members into a room and say, we're freaking doing this, and ram it through. Okay. Um, if you're over 50 people, then you have an immune system. Okay. Meaning that you try something and they're going to go what we mean by an immune system is if you try anything disruptive in your organization, the default answer is no. If the default answer is no, you have an immune system. If the default answer is yes, then you're okay. Okay, so team buy-in, as Warwick described, definitely is a huge challenge. Okay, so this is a key question. Um, uh, so let's go through a set of questions, and we want to ask you this aspect here. What we do with companies, by the way, is as we start with this process, we jump to what the company could look like in an AI native way. Okay. And let's say you pick a year from now, this is what the organization will look like. And you paint a very clear picture of that. And then you backcast from that. This is a futures kind of discipline. If you start from where you are and try and figure out, let's start being AI native, you don't know where you're aiming to and you'll get lost along the way. If you paint the picture of what that future looks like when you're fully AI native and all your processes are AI native, then you can say, okay, if we want to be there in a year, where do we have to be in 9 months? Where do we have to be in 6 months? Where do we have to be in 3 months? And that gives you the roadmap. Okay. So there's a technique called backcasting. We do this, we're not going to do it now, but we do this with companies to help them paint that picture for themselves, and then we go forward. What we are going to do right now is help you measure your organizational friction and where you are on this. Okay. By the way, the backcasting exercise is in the workbook. It's page 6. And you can take this, it's like a half-day process. You can run yourself. If you want help from us, let us know. We're a global community of about 50,000 people around the world. So when we work with people, we pull folks in and we connect them with companies that want to do work. It allows us to operate very nimbly because we don't have any key folks like that on staff. Okay. Um, uh, um, okay. I want to get a bit of a chat going here. Um, let's ask the audience this question. How many of you have heard of backcasting or ever been part of a backcasting exercise? Can I get a 1 if you've ever done that? Excellent. Quite a few have done backcasting. Okay, good. So you're reasonably comfortable with it. Um, some people are working on it. Uh, Gary, you're well on your way, obviously, etc. Somebody calls it by a different name. Very cool. Okay. Um, all right. And give me a sense of if you've done it. Uh, what's the biggest challenge you've seen with backcasting? And I know the answer, but I just want to hear it from the folks. Okay. Peter is saying assumptions. Yeah, what assumptions do you put out there? Um, Ryan, great point. Are you able to think big enough? Right? Are you thinking too small? Okay. Um, uh, Immune system. Okay. Uh, Mindset becomes a really critical part. In the second book, we actually put out, by the way, the book 2 is available to read on our website also. Uh, and we go through a series of 6 mindsets you need for this new world, right? The big thing that we typically see in backcasting exercise is the imagination to dare to think, what could you look like if you totally ran in AI native mode? Because it's actually not easy to uh, do that envisioning, right? So very, very powerful there. Um, okay. Um, um, we're next going to do, Kevin, I've got myself a bit lost here. Are we doing some Q&A or are we going straight to the rewrite score?
Straight to the rewrite score.
Okay, so we're going to do a questionnaire now, and then we'll do some audience interaction to get some answers. But we're going to go through. This is page 7 of your workbook, okay? And we're going to score your company on 7 criteria. So let's start the process. Here you see the 7 criteria. What we're trying to do with this questionnaire is measure the readiness of your organization to go do this AI native transition. Okay, so let's get into it. Grab a piece of paper or a spreadsheet or something, and we want to score 7 questions onto a 1 to 10 score each. Okay, and we do this with our pro members. We go into detail with them, but we're just going to throw it out right now. Number 1, what is the organizational drag inside your organization? So if you're scoring a 10, things get done very quickly. Somebody makes a decision, it's done. If you're 3 people and you collectively decide something, that's a 10. If you're on the low end of the scale, you want to do something and you have to go through a bunch of committees and approval levels and so on as to where to get things done. We call it review theater because most of the time it doesn't change the decision, but it just takes the process takes a long time, right? So on a 1 to 10 score, what is the organizational drag and decision latency in your organization? Okay. All right. Let's go to the next question. Number two. Um, where does AI sit inside your organization? If you're a high score close to 10, then AI is a first citizen in the organization. You have a chief AI officer, and it's a major strategic initiative with the with your company and blessed all the way from CEO downwards. If AI is you're on the low end of the score, AI is an isolated tool brought in by IT. Your board can't spell AI, um, and you're on the low end of that scale. Okay, it's basically viewed as a tool. So on a score of 1 to 10, where do you sit with that? Okay, so think about that. All right. Next question. Um, is your work broken down into role-based uh, items? For example, invoice comes in, send it to the CFO, and it goes to the person with a role, and it's human-centric tasks. Okay, or that's the low end of the scale. At the high end of the scale, if you're closer to a 10, the work is task-based, must get invoice approved, go to the person that has the easiest layer, approval layer for approving this invoice, and it changes depending on expertise. And you work with AI agents sometimes to do some getting work done. Okay, so depending on where you are here, low end of the scale work is prescriptive and routed by to humans with titles, or it's uh, there's depending on different levels, you automate, you have rules for where that work gets done. Okay. Um, Next question. Um, how do you define the boundaries of your firm and how often do you change it? Okay. So if your workforce is totally human and the humans are executing the AI with AI, then you're human centric and you're on the low end of the scale. If your firm is more AI native and AI agents are doing a lot of the work and they may be operating as formal team members, fantastic. You're on the high end of the scale. Okay. So how much um, uh, human versus AI is it to get work done inside your organization? Okay. Human centric, low end of the scale, AI centric, high end of the scale. Okay. Hopefully I'm not going too fast for everybody. Okay. All right. Next question. Um, how do you decide where the work gets done? If every decision needs a human to approve it, then you're on the low end of the scale. Okay. If you have clear rules, like if invoice lower than $50, just pay the invoice, and an AI native system just does it, then you're on the high end of the scale. Okay. So how much intelligent routing of the tasks is there built into your organization? If every invoice has to go to the CFO for approval, then you're obviously very human centric. Okay. So this is measuring decision autonomy. Okay. All right. Next question. Uh, are you a rigid hierarchy in your organization structure, or are you distributed in your authority where key decisions are happening? Okay. What we're asking here is, are key decisions made at the center of the company, or can key decisions be made at the edge? Okay. And what we're measuring here is how centralized is the decision making? Okay. So if everything goes to the center and core team has to approve everything, then you're low end of the scale. If team members or AI agents have autonomy to make decisions under certain rules, you're on the high end of the scale. So we're measuring here the authority of decision making. Is it centralized or is it distributed? Okay. All right. Next question. Um, under what conditions you do reinvent your organization chart, your org chart. Okay. In most companies, you will redesign your org chart if you have an M&A transaction, if you launch a new line of business, if you do a major reorg because you're doing something fundamentally new. Okay. But only on some forcing function from the outside. Okay. If you're AI native, you're actually changing the org structure. The organization becomes a protocol, and the organization is shifting on a day-to-day basis. If you use my example of the trucking company with the refrigerated trucks, if the decision is, yeah, we're going to do refrigerated trucks, the organization chart changes automatically with that decision to accommodate, hey, we now need maintenance capability for these refrigerated trucks. That needs to be built into the org chart. A note gets fired off to hiring to say, hey, we need some folks to maintain these new trucks. Where do we find them, etc. So your org chart is actually changing and is fluid based on what the company is doing. That's a very big shift in thinking. Okay. So on a 1 to 10 score, low end org chart is calcified. On the high end, org chart is fluid and changing. Okay. Now, take a minute and add it all up, and let's talk about the scores. And let's open it up to the audience here. I'd like to hear from Katie. I hope that's 10 is for that. Is that the whole score? In which case, okay, we have some work to do. Okay, so we're getting some scores here. Um, um, uh, Kevin, do you want to get the audience involved and take some questions or some discussion?
So next was really just to find out from folks after you've shared your score what was actually the lowest dimension, and then we jump into our
Some coaching.
analysis and
Okay,
live coaching. And
got
I'll
it.
just tell you, Salim, row 19. Um,
Got it. Okay. Um, Excellent. Okay, so here's a question I have for you folks, and I'm getting the scores. This is great. Some nicely decent high scores, which is also great to see. So if your score is higher, then you're ready to, you have a decent foundation. Above 50 is a decent foundation to rebuild yourself to be AI native. If you're below 30, then you've got to get your organization fixed up because, for example, if all decisions have to go through human beings, you can't become AI native very quickly, right? And so that's the heuristic there. Um, but I would like to ask the question that Kevin asked, which is, where did you score the lowest on those 7 dimensions? Where did you score the lowest? Okay, if you want to throw that into the chat, I'd love to see that. Okay, org chart
so we got a few of
redesign.
those coming in, and Salim, I think one thing that was great is Gary wrote in the comments how he keeps improving. This is the numerous time, fifth time he's now run this, and
Okay,
through the work they're doing, they keep improving.
that's very cool. That's what we like to see. Um, Gary's part of our pro members, and we work with them every week to help them up the score. Okay. Um, Firm boundary design is a clear one because, in the history of the world, we've never had to create a live protocol as the organizational design, right? So I'm not surprised to see that in there. Um, Decision autonomy is another one that we're seeing there. Okay. Um, Excellent. Okay. Um, just joined. We'll chime in when I catch up. No problem, Andrew. Grab the workbook. If we can paste the link to the workbook, we'll see where we are. Um, I have 10 on my flexibility. Yes. A couple of agents, two and be automated. Okay. Okay, our scores were all between 30 to 49, but very different, says Adriana. Yeah, you could expect different people to have a different opinion on this. Something that's amazing if you're a bigger company, we do this where we have the people at the bottom of the company scoring the company and the middle of the company and then the C-suite. And the difference in the scoring is unbelievable because the C-suite always thinks, "Oh my God, we're fantastic." At the bottom, they're like, "We're the most bureaucratic company in the history of the world." And just having a conversation about the difference in the scores is really pretty surreal. Um, uh, Ivan, biggest question is how to rewire the people. Yeah, great question. Okay, so let's do some live coaching now. If you want to get a sense of where you are, so put your hand up if you want to kind of have a conversation about this. And the first thing I want to hear is what is your score? um, and we'll pick people that have a low score and people that have a high score. So if you've got a low score, put your hand up and we'll talk about it. If you've got a high score, we also want to hear from you. Okay. Um, let's go to Manisha first, and then we'll go to Andrew. Manisha.
Salim, do you want to stop sharing your screen there?
Yes, I'll do that right now.
Hi, thank you, Salim. It was definitely very insightful. My score is, I would say, 39. Let me check again. So 38, somewhere in between, right?
Okay.
And what I feel is like, again, the questions when I was answering it, many of them are all depends upon which decision are we trying to achieve, right?
Okay.
If there's a single door decision, yes, you can go ahead and take it at a team level versus two door decision. So what we are trying to also
Quick
do is
question. How many people do you have in your company?
2000 plus.
Okay. And do you mind sharing what the company does or what sector you're in or what industry you're
Sure,
in?
sure. So we are open table. We are in the restaurant business.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
I use it all the time.
absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for being the loyal user.
Okay. So where did you score on can two people with OpenClaw replicate your business?
Again, that's where I said it all depends, right?
Okay.
I think anybody can replicate any business where we are today. The moat and the moat is the data. Obviously, we
Yes.
have like 66 billion customer information. We know what Salim is eating. This I hope will not get published anywhere. So, and then a couple of other things that we understand about our customer, about our restaurant, that a two people startup might not be able to do it in a day. So it's
You have
not the
proprietary data, and I think you have the opportunity to create incredible learning loops that will keep you ahead in a big way.
yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
Okay. What was your lowest scoring dimension?
I think my lowest was decision autonomy, and I'm trying to see somewhere work architecture and decision autonomy. They both are three.
And have you guys built AI agents that are running amok inside the company? I would hope so.
We have around I would say 20 plus agents, legal, finance, in every area,
Okay.
HR, where yeah, like Lego is our legal agent who is helping the legal team do their work. So we have agents, and I think it's not about the mindset. We all are from top to bottom. People are ready. They're like, tell us what to do, and we will transform. Where my struggle is like, how should we identify that workflow? When you talked about the edge,
Yeah.
what should be the
Okay.
starting? Is that like the product? Is
Great.
that the layer you feature? What
Great.
what what should
Great
be?
question. Which workflows do you start with, right?
Yeah,
So you want workflows that are very prescriptive and well understood with the least amount of tacit knowledge and judgment. Okay. So if you
mm,
took a workflow, and we're going to do this in a minute, okay, where we're going to take a workflow and break it down. And so stay tuned for the exercise. But in general, there's a lot of workflows that are very well understood. Customer onboarding, right? Or um, uh, checking whether a review is fake or not, etc. And there's certain processes inside your company that are very step by step. We understand them very well, etc. We typically, when we work with on the pilot with companies, we're picking workflows, one that could radically increase revenues and one that could radically reduce costs. Okay, so that
true.
gives you a bit of
Both directions,
capability on both
absolutely.
sides
So I'm
that
like,
way.
so if I
But
if I may chime in for 30 seconds, like for the
sure.
customer support, let's say we already have Agentforce, Fins running, and a couple of other agents. Would that consider as, hey, you are doing what you need to do, or no, that's a very different kind of a thought process than building an edge twin?
I think it's different because I'll make this point. It's very hard to get your head around this, but
Yeah,
so here's a simple question. If you lifted AI out of OpenTable right now, okay,
yeah,
would anybody's workflows change? Okay. And I suspect for many people in the company, the workflows don't change. AI helps them do the same work faster. Okay. So this is what every company has been doing that has implemented AI in a medium level is they're taking AI and automating existing workflows. And
yeah.
therefore you don't get the learning loop in there. Okay. Now you get a certain set of efficiencies, fantastic, but then you get stuck. And so that's the coaching here is somehow you have to think about take two workflows, move them to the edge. When you rebuild them that are in an AI native way, what you want to get to the holy grail, this is why we call it the organizational singularity, is you want recursive self-improvement of the workflows. So because every time the workflow runs, the AI agents should learn and figure out a better way of doing it. When you hit that inflection point, then you know you're there and you can start deprecating the old over time. Okay. So that's the question to think about. Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Okay. Andrew, over to you.
58. The thing that I've noticed is the agents are starting to eat a decision at a time. So I'm applying the OODA loop, and I've broken it down. Like I kind of think of like one single decision. So the agent has a very limited scope of what it does, and they're starting to build up in like sequence and then layers. So that the OODA loop is working. What I've noticed is when I started this business, bringing in the old tools, we'll say like Jira is a good example, Slack, they're not built for agents, and you introduce all this organizational drag. And I was reading the book, the Open EXO book about the data lake, and I'm specking that out right now. And so the question I have for you is like, okay, we have a blob of data. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what department it is. We dump it into the data lake. It gets embedded. It's searchable. But my question is on the metadata of that is where you're kind of putting in permissions of when somebody's agent or an agent goes and gets that data, that metadata is restricting permissions. And I have questions around that area of how that metadata is structured because everything's dumping into the data lake. Every agent can search that data, but the metadata controls the permissions. Could you speak to that idea?
Yeah, we're going to have to redesign our data lakes to have governed data. And each data object will have a permission envelope that will dictate who can see it and what types of agents are allowed to see it. Okay, so you almost need to build almost like an infrastructure operating system for access control at the agent level.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be a tricky part. This is what the ERP providers are banking on to save their ass, because otherwise everybody's right now. For the audience, I'm just going to step theoretically for a second. Today, in any medium to large size company, you have your cloud and connectivity provider, then you have ERP systems, and all your workflows and data are wired and meshed into that ERP system, right? Whether it's Agentforce or HubSpot or PeopleSoft or Oracle Financials or SAP or whatever. Then we've got business intelligence on top of that, and we're trying to layer AI on top of that. Well, of course, you can't get any real efficiencies because it's a stuck system. What needs to happen is we need to move to your cloud and connectivity, a governed data lake, and then AI-enabled workflows on top of that. Okay. The ERP systems are going to hate this because it means you don't need them. It means you want to update software, you can get software written very quickly to access that data lake. So they're slowing it down very drastically and saying, we'll build your data lake for you, et cetera, et cetera. This is it's a new field that's going to have to figure out how to create self-governing data objects and meshed in a particular way. It's almost a completely new database system we're going to have to design for navigating this. Okay, so I don't have a clear answer. You're ahead of most people anyway because of what you're doing. So, but happy to have a chat offline about this. Okay. All right, let's go to Chris or Christopher.
Hello, Salim. First off, big fan of the pod, big fan of your work. I actually made a song based on your first ever LLM prompt, so I'll have to drop that in the chat for you. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh my God! So for what Chris is talking about, my first ever prompt to ChatGPT was rewrite the Bible Genesis chapter 1 as a rap song, and it was kind of incredible what came out of it.
I want it. You'll
okay,
get it.
Let's go to your question.
So, very conservatively, at my day job, it's the world's largest ball bearing company, Swedish-based, founded over 100 years ago. It was actually founded through entrepreneurship. We're at a 19. We're lowest with organizational drag, very human-centric, human approvals. And we say all the right things at a high level, right? We bring everyone to Gothenburg, we bring in these AI speakers, they say all the right things, but then our mantra is perform and transform. And we're at the cusp of machines having feelings, right? The bearing is the most sensitive part of a machine. And we have this great patented technology that allows them to speak and to share those feelings. But our engineers are not embracing this tool we've spent millions of dollars in that allows us to simulate things. And so I'm struggling with getting them to adopt AI. I've actually started to really challenge them, but that's where I need the help right now.
So this is why you need the edge twin, okay? Because the legacy, a big company is like a Roman army. It's moving along like in a phalanx formation with shields and spears, etc. You come in from the side, it doesn't matter how nice you are, you're going to get speared, okay? So what you need to do is create anything disruptive in a big company has to be done at the edge. Okay? The poster child here is Nestle, which created Nespresso in like 1976. And for about 10 years, they ran it as a line of business, but it didn't fit. It doesn't fit neatly in this big soup processing company and food processing company. And they were becoming such a nightmare. Finally, one day in frustration, 10 years later, the CEO goes, oh, put them in their separate building, get them away from the core organization. And boom, every hotel room in the world has an espresso machine now. Now it's one of their highest margin line of businesses. Okay. So for this reason, and because legacy organizations are geared for those two things that I mentioned before, efficiency and predictability, it is impossible to change the mindset around leveraging new technology in a new way. Because if every ball bearing can express out what it's going through, etc., you have the most unbelievable analytical capability, fault tolerance capability, predictability, etc. But the legacy folks, having done 30 years of engineering in this one particular way, cannot get their heads around this. Okay, it's like asking a 30-year-old marketing guy to take on internet marketing. They just can't. They're like trying to hire billboards, right? You have to do it at the edge. You have to hire a totally different team. So what you need to do is create a 3 to 5 person team at the edge. If it's helpful, we come in and yell at the CEO and the board to give permission for that because we have the luxury of not giving a damn. And so we can kind of speak truth to power and then help you build that thing at the edge. We do this with Siemens Energy. We do this with all sorts of big companies around the world. Ping us separately and we're happy to help if we can. Okay.
Absolutely. Will do. Thank you.
All right. I think we have to move on, right? Kevin, am I getting the signal?
We do. I know there's a lot of hands up, but there is another time for questions.
Okay.
So.
All right, let's go to the next thing, which is we're going to take one workflow and run through this process with you so you get this. So let me go back to sharing screens again. How are we doing on time, Kevin? Am I behind? Are we?
We're a little bit behind.
Okay.
But
I'll try and move quickly. Okay, if you just one more thing on the rewrite score, go to your two lowest scores and just recognize that everything else you're trying to do is constrained by those two low scores. And so figure out what you need to do in your organization to fix those two lowest scores. Okay, because you won't be able to scale intelligence until you solve for that. So that's a little guidance for how to think about this. Okay, we're going to go to a live exercise now. We want you in your companies to pick one workflow. Okay, not a function like accounts payable, but a simple workflow like invoice approval or customer onboarding or something. Okay, and we want you to just it should be a workflow that has maybe 5 or 6 or 7 steps in it. Okay, so if it's invoice approval, you know the steps. Like the invoice comes in, we need to check, is this a real customer? Then we need to check, did the work get done, etc., etc. Right? So pick one workflow. Okay. Hopefully everybody gets what I mean. Okay. Then we want you to list out on a piece of paper the granular prescriptive tasks, the composite tasks that go into making that workflow. Okay. Categorize, look it up, respond, follow up, whatever those are. Just write those down.
So you can do that in part 6 on the workbook. So you don't have to use a piece of paper.
Sorry, use the workbook. Okay. Page 9. No, whatever.
No, number 6.
Number 6.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody list out those a few tasks. We'll give you a minute to do this. And be careful, you might bundle two things together that really should be broken down. Now, when we do this with our real clients, we also look at, is that task a judgment task, an execution task, or an analysis task, right? So we subcategorize tasks into that because that gives you another guidance as to how much you can automate. But we're not, just for the purposes of today, we're not going to do that. Okay, just list the few workflows. Okay, give me a 1 in the chat if you've done that. If you've got your workflow with the 5 or 6 tasks laid out. Okay. Andrew, you're moving way too fast for everybody. Okay, a few people have done it. We'll give people another minute. Okay, people are getting there. Stick a 1 in when you've finished your listing out the composite tasks. Excellent. This is like popcorn popping. You get a few early kernels, then you get a big flurry, and then a few late kernels. Big question is, when do you pull the popcorn out? All right. I think most people are kind of just about done. So, yes, Kevin, after you shake it. Katie. Okay, so now that you've got your tasks listed out, okay, write down on a 1 to 5 score for each of the tasks according to the slide that I have up. So if it's fully human today, then it's a 1. If a human leads, but you've got some support by an AI agent, you're a 2. If the human leads, but the AI does material assistance, then you're a 3. And you can see where this goes. 4 and 5 are now the agent actually handles it with some or no human oversight. Okay, so just score those tasks on a 1 to 5 scale in terms of where this goes. Okay. If you're a 5, you should be deploying like Monday. Okay. By the way, the workbook will auto pull the 4s and 5s into a list for you and gives you a sense of go deploy these now. Okay. It's a clever workbook. Brock is saying it won't let me click on the numbers on the workbook. Then grab a piece of paper. All right. So now that you have this workflow broken down, okay, give me some sense in the uh, chat. How many uh, of your tasks are below a score of 3? How many of your tasks are below a score of 3? Okay. All of them, 4 of them. Okay, 1 of them. Okay. All are 1s. Okay. All right. And then now give me a sense of how many of your tasks are score 4 or 5. Quite a spectrum here. Okay. You get a sense of it, right? So what we're trying to do here is give you a little practice in, if you took a workflow and broke it down, to what extent could you AI enable that workflow, right? And the lower scores means it's harder to enable, which means you've got massive opportunity here. Okay, and then take that to the next level. Okay, all right, we're going to move on. We just want to give you that sense of it. I want to just go a little bit into the specs of an agent, so you get a sense of what we're talking about, and then we're going to have Kent do a live demo of our Claude skills, so you can kind of go take a look at that. Okay, so we mentioned this intelligence stack, uh, which we think is going to become core to every organization in the world. And I'm going to just repeat this. It's going to be every government department, every nonprofit, every company in the world is going to move to this over time. The old human-centric organizational design is going to disappear. And the ones that move the quickest are the ones that are going to get the biggest benefit because they'll start learning loops faster, right? And so it's a very stark choice in front of any company or any organization today. We talked yesterday to the CIO of one of the big US states, and they're like, we need to move to this architecture. How do we do it? Because think about most government processes are very prescriptive, like a driver license renewal. We know exactly the steps that go through that. All of that can be moved to an AI native way very powerfully. So when we talk about the govern and assure loop, we talk about four things. Okay. Number one, constantly testing uh, against trusted evaluation suites. Okay, so that if there's any degradation in the AI agent, you catch it quickly. So that's a key area. And make sure if it drifts below a threshold or a performance threshold, the system will trigger a warning. Level two is every AI agent should be logging everything it's doing so that you can go back and look at it. And therefore, in order to improve, you can see what did it do, and then you have the access to improving it. If you're not logging, having the AI agents logging everything they're doing, you can't go back and improve anything. Okay. And so you need a very clear transparency mandate here for all your agents. Third, you should be able to roll back. Okay, so you'll have agents going through loops, improving themselves. At some point, they may go too far over their skis, and you end up in a mess, like we saw yesterday with the AI that hacked out of OpenAI, right? Pretty insane. You need to be able to roll back at the agent level. And so have that, you need the log and the evaluation and the governance oversight to be able to roll back with a kill switch, etc. And then finally, a very clear human review queue so that if some expense is going to be over X, it needs to be reviewed and checked, etc. Because these things are operating in loops. Therefore, if something going wrong, you want to find out very quickly before it spirals out of control. So those are four key mechanisms that we're going to be specking out in all the agents we work with our clients. We do this with our pro members, etc., to make sure you have really good oversight over these AI agents. Okay. All right. Um, uh, all of this gets you a score, but I'm going to skip this. I think it's a good time to go to the demo. Kevin, should we move to that?
Absolutely. We
Okay.
can do that. Let me find Kent.
Okay.
If you can stop sharing.
Let me
I'm
stop sharing.
here.
Kent,
Hey,
welcome.
everybody.
Kent is our
Hey,
co-founder
Slim.
and used to be teach data analytics and data architectures at Singularity University.
Yeah.
Welcome,
AI,
Kent.
EXO, data. Thank you, Salim. Yeah, Salim and I started this journey building OpenEXO over 10 years ago. It's been a journey, but with all that AI and all that EXO, all of that mixing up, we're here today, and it's pretty amazing what we've been able to do. One of the ways that we want anybody, anywhere, anytime in the world, if you can just get access to an AI, is to be able to build their EXO is by using skills. Skills is one of the most powerful ways, really, to use the current crop of AI and LLMs. This is the workbook you've been using, and at some point you'll see that it'll say download a PDF or download a skill for MD. You can do that, and then when you do that, you can start actually using we're going to do Claude. So I'll demonstrate that in just a second. But all of that is, as I said, to help you start building your own EXO. And that is a really powerful way to get started. You can literally do it right now. You could probably do it while we're talking, if you want to pay attention there. So it is a single skill which has in it not just the book, as Salim was talking about earlier, but an entire framework for the implementation and building of your minimum viable intelligence stack in your organization as an EXO 3.0. It's obviously aware of prior versions of EXO. And we literally work with this, and all of our members every single week are using this. And people are having a really amazing jobs, or really amazing experiences. And I'll share a couple of those in a second. But ultimately, you're trying to build your EXO 3.0, and inside it, you're trying to embed your intelligence stack, which was at the center of that three node wheel that Salim showed earlier. We call it our triangle model. And you're going to use rewrite, drive, and shape to do that. Today, we're mostly talking about rewrite because it's just too much to get into to do the whole entire thing over and over. But you get the idea. And what people are experiencing by using this are, we have Joe, who's one of our members. She loaded in her business and she got a 90-day path. So she fed her everything she could think about her business into the skill, gave her back a path through MVIS, and then she's been doing that ever since, just really going around the route, checking in, rescoring, kind of like you heard earlier. There's a guy named, this one didn't have a name. It's a solo operator who wasn't to be named, but really rebuilt a live multi-agent system on top of Claude, in this case, using MTP as a protocol, which is a core function of the book and evolution of the massive transformative purpose. And what he did was distilled the entire book down into an SOP, and I believe also using the skill, embedded that directly into the day-to-day operations of the business. And what this helped him do was get done, because stop starting and start finishing, if you want to say it another way. It helped show the show the finish line, get them to it, and then move on to the next thing, and then keep track of all that over time. Really powerful use case. Another person went a little bit more meta and is using this as a tool to run other companies. So this person has a whole portfolio. Alex has a portfolio of 17 companies doing 16 million in revenue and has been profitable over the last 13 years. And he said, this is not a startup toy. This is his company's not a startup toy. It's a profitable business. And he's been moving it and all of the sub companies onto this stack. So that's just a few little things that I want you to know are happening by a few of the members in the Open EXO ecosystem. But now you can start building yours right now. So you've already gone through the workbook. You've named a workflow. You've stood up some of your pieces in that workflow. You've started thinking about govern and assure, and you have been beginning to write the definition. So if you have downloaded that markdown file and then you go into, assuming you've installed the skill, I'm not going through the actual install of the skill too much in here. There's links to that that Kevin and the team will drop in the chat. You will get a little markdown file. And this is an example that Kevin did for us in advance, filling out the whole workbook so that we can use it. And we know that it will work. So the Brightway is the name of the company. It's an example, and it's pretty simple. If you're using Claude Cowork, like I'm doing for this demo, then you can just come in and type building an EXO, help me design my MVIS and analyze this file from the 10x Shift Workshop workbook that describes my company. I want to be an EXO 3.0. It can be that easy to start out. You'll notice again, I'm in Claude Desktop. I'm in Cowork. I have already installed the skill. I've loaded the markdown file from the workbook, and I've just typed a pretty basic prompt to get the party started. Now, what it will do next really depends on what you've put in your workbook, but sometimes it'll ask questions. Sometimes it will, there you go. You can see it's loading the skill from this particular installation's skills that are available. And this skill was made as I said earlier, while we're kind of waiting, the skill was made by distilling the same exact processes we use to run in the organizational singularity pilot, which is something that companies are paying $120,000 to run through that process. It's the same process that our pro members use every single week. And you can see here, it's now asking, what deliverable do you want? A markdown report and analysis and chat only, or I'll take Markdown and HTML dashboard. That'd be pretty cool because, as we all know, Claude can make artifacts. And so what should I concentrate on? MVIS plus agent blueprints, full EXO 3.0 diagnostic. I'm just going to go with balanced in this case because we're just getting started out. So this is how it will behave, whether you're doing it in Claude Desktop or you're doing it in Claude Code. Or you're doing it in Codex. There is a Codex version of the skill as well that lives on the portal that was shared earlier in the chat. So this is kind of how it works. This is what gets you started. And then as we build things like those little HTML dashboards that it's going to crank out here, I can then publish that live as an artifact. And if I'm on the Claude Teams account, I can share the link to that to all of my coworkers or the people who are in my Edge pod or ops team that you're going to create, your Edge Twin team, and you'll be on the same page, quite literally. And these are really powerful modalities to use these tools. So, and you can see here that the agent has been sort of brought to life. It's running all the diagnostics. It's going to then score everything against drive and shape. It's going to draft MTP as a protocol. If you already have an MTP because you've been through EXO stuff before, you can tell it that. This is just the very beginning, and it uses all of the data you did from your workbook today, because the number one thing we can give you, I think, coming out of this is the capability to continue to leave this call today with action in mind so that you can start your own journey along this. And whether you come and see us in pro or whether you do it yourself or however you do it, we just want to make sure you're fully armed and ready. So are there any questions about that real quick while we kind of wait for it to work through a complex response, as it says over there? Bojan asks, can you please give us the link? And yes, of course. It's all been dropped in the chat over and over. Alistair says, where did you get that skill? It's at the link that Kevin just dropped in the chat. It's on the openexo.com platform resource hub. The skill is one of the things that's just open access. So I think it may require you to have a basic free account, but at the very least, it's there and available. Kenneth asks, what does MVIS mean? Kenneth, that is the minimum viable intelligence stack, which is at the core of what you're building when you're building an EXO and an AI native organization. Andrew says, can these skills be provided in Markdown so we can use them in proprietary systems? Well, Andrew, if you install the skill in your system, you actually have the Markdown files and everything in there. So they are provided in Markdown. What model do you suggest using it within Claude? Opus 4.8 would be the current. Alistair, Claude skill shows as locked on that page. Yes, I do believe it requires that you at least have a free account to download. Why not Fable 5? You can absolutely use Fable 5, Heinrich. It's amazing. It will use a lot more tokens for you, so I don't recommend it up front because I don't know what plan people are on. But if you use Fable 5, there's a whole way that I teach people to use it using loops and workflows so that you can actually delegate components of the work to Opus and Sonnet and even Haiku, thus saving yourself a lot of tokens and parallelizing your workflows better. Let's see what else. Rapid fire Q&A. Okay, let's see what we've got. I'm going to switch back over to the skill. All context loaded, building the analysis now. And you can see here that we're continuing to go down. Kev, I don't know how we're doing on time, so it may be that we bounce back and
We're
forth.
good on time, Kens. We're good on time.
Oh, good. Okay.
You can continue
usually I end up at the very end
questions in the chat. Sorry.
Yeah. I usually end up
in
at the
back
very
channel,
end.
That has disappeared.
Okay, great. I tend to end up at the end, and you guys are like, okay, do 30 minutes in 3. And I'm like, yeah, fine. I've got AI. I can do that. Let's see. What else do we have? Agents cannot, okay, that's not about this. Where can I access your guide on multiple Box accounts on the Mac? Oh, yeah, Gary, I don't know if by Box you mean the Box service, like where you store your files, or if you mean something else. And then let's see what else. What is the retention policy for this skill? That is completely up to you, Manisha. In a larger organization, you're going to have to manage those types of things around your data policies. So by default, it doesn't have an opinion on that. That will be up to you and your organization. Now, that also ties back to the service that you subscribe to with Anthropic in this case. So if you have, for example, the enterprise price plan, its retention policies are detailed in its service agreements that you have with Anthropic. Bob would like an answer to the OpenClaw integration question. What was the question, Bob? I missed it in the chat. And Hermes will be a very similar answer. Please let me know what that question was. I didn't see it.
So ultimately, I think it was this question saying, do these agents have to live in Claude, or so how would we use the skill if we're using OpenClaw or Hermes?
Oh, sure. So Hermes and OpenClaw are a bit different, but ultimately this is just a skill that has been authored for the Anthropic Claude environment. So you can take that skill and give your OpenClaw or your Hermes access to the .skill file and say, integrate this skill with yourself. And it will simply do that. And that skill will become a part of your OpenClaw or Hermes deployment. Okay. It really is that simple. There's nothing crazy there. And let's see. Here's a question. Way to discuss with your agency equity sovereignty and top of capital stack with permanent. I'm going to pass on that one. Tom, if you want to rephrase that question, I'll give it a go. Do you launch in Vercel to share this with other teammates, or is this more of a solo project? If you mean what I referred to as creating, so this dashboard, for example, that it's going to create right here, Claude has a built-in function for creating something called artifacts. And then artifacts are on Anthropic URLs that can be shared. They're not deployed by default to Vercel. If you want to deploy stuff to Vercel, you most certainly can do that. You would just have to authenticate to your Vercel account, install the MCP server, and then boom, you could do that if that is your chosen deployment methodology. I was referencing using Anthropic artifacts, which are available in two different ways. One through Claude Desktop and two through Claude Code. They do have slightly different features, but they're both pretty good. So here we go. We've got our EXO MVIS dashboard for this particular use case, and I've opened it separately here in the browser so we can see it. Let's see what we got. Brightway components, destination, MVIS, and governance. So it looks like Brightway is scoring 35 out of 80 with an L1, L2 Miura co-ladder. Salim, if you want to explain that, I'll leave it over for you. It's failing the dabbing test, and it's operating below L3 on the token maxing test. So we won't necessarily have enough time to go into all of these diagnostic details in order. But the point is that now, after just doing one quick round that took just a few minutes, we have this live-ish dashboard that then can be published as an art. I'll just show you how to do that. We can publish it as an artifact. So let me move that over here. Publish this as an artifact. And that will do it. That's all you got to do. And that's going to actually push it to Anthropic's servers, like I said, and give you a version you can share with anybody that has access to the scope of that, which will usually be people on your Teams or enterprise account. Although I think recently they have deployed so you can open that up to more people. So there's that opportunity as well. Here's your 4 pillars of govern and assure. We've got the MVIS 6-layer stack mapped. So what I would do with this, if this was me and Brightway was my company, is I would publish this as an artifact, and then about once a quarter, maybe, or even once a month early on in the process, I would simply redo the workbook, getting my new scores. I would add those. And by the way, I'm running this inside of a Claude project so that I can continually come back and add to it with new discussions. So I would just come in here, drop my new scores in and say, hey, do it all again and update the dashboard. I'm sorry, I've had a cold, and it will do that. So here we go. It's taking the dashboard that we created. It's already an artifact, so it'll publish the full written analysis also as a readable artifact, rebuild the HTML, and give me a link to that, which is pretty cool. Okay, so what else do we have? Wave one, it's telling you here's your diagnostic agent blueprints. You can actually turn these into skills and agents, by the way. That's a kind of a neat thing that you can do. CO Edge Twin Diagnostic Survey. Your output will be different. It depends on what you prompted, what you ask it. Did you tell it to make a dashboard? That's completely up to you. And then it's giving you some warnings down here and things you should be looking at. And this one will come up a lot, which is the organizational immune system, which we've talked about a little bit today. Let's see if there are other questions. Do you launch it? Oh, I did that one. Meaning...
Kent, you want to maybe answer Sarisha's, which is how do you prevent Claude from hallucinating while producing this output?
Don't ask it to answer questions that it never could possibly have an answer for in the first place. Give it better context. That's on you, not Claude. Nobody likes it when I answer that way, but that's the way it is. If it's hallucinating, it's because you didn't give it good enough context. Let's see, artifacts are pretty dope. I agree, Andrew. How can I read the book that is constantly changing, like EXO 3.0? Well, we release it in versions. We've tried to slow down the version releases. The current live version of EXO 3.0 is version 25. We do have a new version queuing, and it will go up soon. Just keep reading it and just know that it'll keep changing. So that's, and then Gary is answering and saying, hey, well, I use an agent to read it. I'm not sure if that's you reading or the agent there, Gary, but okay. You got to do both. Let's see what else. Oh, there's a big question here. What's this? Oh, okay, Adriana, I think I saw you post this earlier as well. If your agents fail, you lose revenue, and these agents currently run on employees' homes. Yeah, so this is super. Okay, this is a bigger one. Not a one-shot answer, but what you're expressing is that your company doesn't have the capability, the rules, the processes, the procedures to manage the IT, which is in this case deployments of your agentic systems, and probably Claude or something like it. And you're going to have to learn those skills. And I'm seeing this a lot with people who are developing incredible applications in days or weeks, and then looking at it, deploying it to live, then it breaks and they can't fix it. So there's a gap that's arisen between what we would think of as sort of traditional IT and DevOps skills that is just missing. And one of the best ways to start to build that up is to find the more technical amongst your crew and start telling them to ask the very same agents that you're using, how do I manage this in how do I do DevOps and IT in a way that has disaster recovery and business continuity built into the system, and resilience engineering. So these are some of the keywords that'll trigger the AI to tell you what to do to start to build those capabilities that you're missing into your organization. Okay, you skipped ahead, and you've got to now go back and learn some things that you or your team might not know. Let's see. Let me take a look what's going on over here. Here's everything. Published as an artifact. Created. This is the artifact version over here. Excellent. All right. Very, very cool. So yeah, you could do one of a million things with this after it's done. So that kind of concludes the demonstration. Let's see. Kevin Allen, Anisha saying, would you share that input file with us as well? Oh, Kevin already answered that. Yep. Oh, Andrew makes an important point that I can expand on the hallucination comment. I'm talking to you primarily about using fairly high-end reasoning models like Opus 4.8 and higher, like Fable. If you, or ChatGPT 5.6, and some of the other ones, Kimi K3, Quinn, the latest Quinn model, GLM 5.2, these models are going to have much less tendency to hallucinate as long as you give them good context. If you try to do this same process using, say, Haiku or Sonnet 5, you will run the risk of higher degrees of hallucination, because the lower the reasoning capability, the higher we tend to see that kind of thing. What that means is that your prompts have to improve dramatically. So prompt engineering almost disappears at the higher levels, the higher model levels, but it will resurface if you use the lower capability models. That does not make them useless. They're actually very powerful and they're much cheaper. But the way you fix that is to talk to the higher level models to improve your prompts to give to the lower level models. Okay. And that'll teach you how to talk to other models in a way that has the prompts. And remember, when you're prompting an AI, you're just giving it more context. So, and guidance. Okay. Let's see. Lots of questions about. Thank you, Steve. Let's see. I designed a race car. Will the skill also help with building, for an example, an eval harness for an agent based on the best way to become an Yes, it will absolutely do that for you. Ask it exactly like you typed that, Jorn, and it will do that for you. And then you'll probably turn that into a skill. And then you can run that skill on your outputs and it will act as the eval harness. And you can always have it running in the background as a sub-agent if you like. It's a really powerful way to do that. Let's see. I'm going to switch away now from the screen share because we completed all of that, I think. What else? Oh, let me see. I had a couple of things here. Sorry, really quick. So basically, in summary, this skill is the thing that kind of helps you build the engine, and it's the relationship that closes the gap. The skill will help you get your MVIS live today. It's going to change constantly. So that's why we made it a skill, because skills can be applied as things change over time and discussion after discussion after discussion. If you get yourself into a gap and you don't know what to do next, or you want help, or you want to do this with your peers. Sometimes people just want other people to do this with, to talk to. Come see us in Pro. We're there. And you've been asking me anything all along the way. So that's pretty good. Kevin, did I miss any really important questions? And Sharisha, people disagree with me all the time. It's totally fine. I don't mind. I learn a lot when people disagree with me. It's great. Same to you, Ivan, as well. See. All right. Any other questions? Last call. Salim, anything you want to toss in there as we wrap up this section? Yeah, I went I went light speed on that, everybody. So, thank you for that.
Yeah, if there's anywhere where you want Kent to drill in a bit more, put it in the chat or shout it out. But I think you got a sense of it, which is the key objective. We think the part of the reason we did this Claude skill is because the speed at which things are changing, we have to be able to update it in real time. And therefore, we're updating the skill as we're updating the book as the local environment changes. For example, we had a massive proof point this past week where an AI lab has proven that they have recursive self-improvement at the lab level. And that's a massive proof point for our overall thesis. And so we're kind of looking at that and working that into the book and into the Claude skill at that level. So we did a really we're really happy about how things are moving because we're updating everything in real time and people are getting full advantage of it in that sense. I do want to ask all of you a question on a 1 to 5 scale, right? The question we have for you is the following. How confident are you that you can do this? 1 on the low end, 5 on the high end. So just give us a 1 to a 5 on how confident are you that you are able to do this or your company is able to do this. Okay. Okay, good. Reasonable number of fives. We've done our job well. If you're on the low end of the score, come and see us. We'll help out. We're kind of our MTPs to transform everything globally, and so we're there to help. Okay. Chris is saying 5 because I'm a great developer. I assume that's you, Chris? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so good stuff. So I want to talk through a little bit of what do you do next, and then we'll open it up to a few more. We'll have one more small demo, and then we'll open up to a few more questions and thoughts. Let me go to my screen here for a second and share my screen. Okay. Share screen. To share. Let's go to slideshow level. Okay, so a big question that we ask CEOs is where are you on the readiness of this, right? Are you in legacy? You're doing it's a bit of a mess, or are you kind of ready to go? And where do you see yourself? So that's just a question we ask for to CEOs and boards. But I want to go back to the rewrite score. Okay, and give you a clear set of actions depending on where your rewrite score is. So if you can, just go ahead and um, check your rewrite score. If you are below 30, okay, then it's important to get moving and pick one event flow, one agent, something, and build what we call the minimum viable intelligence stack, which is run that loop, build that stack for one agent. Okay, just start. So get your developers to build that on spec and start that process going. If you're in the middle, where your score is from say 30 to 50, okay, then you've got enough organizational capability across the rewrite score to start the process. And what we recommend you do is to take one workflow and run the full loop on that full workflow, not at one task, but a whole workflow. Okay. And start running it on the edge, running it in an AI native way. Okay. Really, really critical. Uh, if you're above 50, then your organization is ready to go. You've got low organizational drag. Maybe the only score you're low on is is your organization static, or is it changing in real time, which is very rare for companies at this point. Then start moving, start building things on the edge if you're over 50 people, or brute force it if you're and go direct if you're under 50. Henrik is asking, what do you mean workflow? So we looked at it earlier. If you remember, we said one workflow where we broke it down into the tasks. So it could be invoice approval, it could be customer onboarding, it could be some specific prescriptive piece of work that's well understood in the company. Okay, and so pick one and start running that loop on it, running that intelligence stack on that loop. If you're above 50, go. Don't stop. And the worst case scenario is remember how we said what's your on a 1 to 5 scale, could two guys in a garage replicate your business? If that score is high and your readiness score is low, you've got a problem. Okay, call us like tomorrow, today. Okay, if your score is high, like on that 1 to 5 scale, and you're ready to go and your readiness score is high, rewrite score is high, sorry, it's over 50, go. Like, don't wait. And if you need our help in yelling at the board or yelling at your CEO or yelling at your stakeholders, just give us a call. Um, uh, we have no shame in yelling at board members around this, because it's really critical to get the organizational permission and start rebuilding your company to be AI native, because you have 100x performance improvement waiting for you on the other side of that curve. So absolutely fully go for it. The uh, Tim is asking a very important question. What about the human side of this? I'm finding people have internalized their manual work, and any lessons learned on helping on move the people side. Yes, simple reality. You cannot change people too hard. We do it with companies where we run a 10-week process to hack culture at scale in big companies. But if you've got individuals, this is why you want to do it at the edge. If you're over 50 people, and start a completely different organization almost, and move people over one by one. Okay. If you're below 50 people, brute force it. And if you've got the wrong people, get new people. Because if they can't get their mindsets around what's coming, you're going to be left behind. Okay. So very, very critical. Um, Thanks so much for today's session. Extremely helpful. Glad to hear, etc. So very, very critical that you look at where your score is. Over 50, go. Don't wait. Go for the rewrite. Below 30 to 50, take one workflow and build it in that agent level. And if you're below 30, take one task and automate it. Okay. And get your folks to start that process. All right. Next, we're going to show you a quick demo as to how we build a loop. So, Kent, can I turn it back over to you for that? Let me stop sharing. And
sorry, what did I miss? I was.
We want to show people how our pro members are building on this model. Okay. So what we do with at our pro level is we give you the cloud skill with a coach to help you build this thing properly. Okay. And so this is what we try and do with all of our pro members. Might be worth talking through the company you're working with, Kent, to see what they talk through what they've done.
Okay. We're talking about the real estate company?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So there are different levels of this, right? So with our pro members, that's a group-based session. We have them every week, and we help everybody work through the outputs from their agents, and also we do workbooks, exercises. Sometimes we hot seat other members to show people what other people are doing, kind of like we might have done here if we had them available today. The second thing is, in one of the other methods, is we can forward deploy a coach into an organization. We have about 800 trained coaches with a small core of really, really excellent coaches that we deploy to other companies, and then they help them implement these things as well. That's one way to do it. And then in some cases, we run much larger programs like the Organizational Singularity Pilot, Salim, which I think you might also be referencing. But that's a 90-day program that's very high touch, right? There are cohorts of companies that are collected to a coach, and then they're deployed and building their organizational edge twins along the way. So with regards to how we might also use the skills, I think perhaps, Salim, we could contrive we can continue to use the example I made. We can contrive, like, what would we do next? Like, how would we move into shape? How would we move into drive? Is that what you're wanting? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think, look, let's talk through what you've
here.
done there. So Kent has been working with a company, and they've essentially turned every process in the company, almost all of them, into an AI native structure using the cloud skill. And the outcomes they're seeing are absolutely mind-boggling. Okay. And so we can't speak to the specifics for confidentiality reasons, but the company is ready to take off, and it's real estate. It's not like some digital marketing play. This is very traditional bog standard stuff. But even there, we're seeing we think this company will end up with $1 billion valuation very quickly, just because of the scale and speed with which they're able to operate. So we're super excited by that.
So one example of that I think everybody thinks about and wants to do, it's not step one when you're learning how to do all of this, is that we took what most people would call a dev team inside the company, but it wasn't staffed at all by engineers. It was staffed by highly capable employees who were really willing to learn and learn quickly. And we taught them the basics of DevOps and software development life cycles. And then we began interviewing the people in the company who do the company's primary job, which is real estate acquisition. And it turns out that there are about 10,000 steps in the process, with many of them being manual, to acquire a piece of real estate and get it ready to develop a multifamily housing development on. And so by interviewing the experts in the organization who've been doing this for their entire lives, their entire careers, we've then been able to create a piece of software that operates as a suite of artificially intelligent capable tools that give leverage to the real estate acquisition specialists to then be able to negotiate with owners of parcels to assemble parcels to make larger tracts, and then get those tracts ready to build on by working through complex regulatory processes and hurdles with cities. And so when you take that kind of a complex environment, and you know that that's just 1/3 of the overall process for acquiring, building, and then operating the real estate, which is what this company's doing, every single step of that, we're running through this process of kind of building their minimum viable intelligence stack. And the application that we've created that is currently internal client facing has the opportunity to be external facing as well, serving other people in the industry. And this is a very EXO thing to do. And a canonical example is Amazon Web Services, which was, Amazon needed to have compute available, but what they figured out how to do is make their compute a service that other people could buy. They can use it too. And that not only subsidized their compute use for the company, but it created an entire situation where they're some maybe as big as the actual company, Amazon Cloud, right? Amazon Web Services. And so that's kind of the same process that we're doing for this company, is to create these tools and services and things that serve internal users, but often with an eye to how we might be able to publish that externally to capture data, to bring in revenue, and things like that. Now, in order to do all of this in a regulated industry, and they are in a regulated industry, we had to deploy an organizational architecture that was not a single company. Which is also a super interesting thing. You'll find sometimes, especially regulated spaces, that you have to create a family of companies, each of them with their own piece of the process, the piece of the action, so that you don't run afoul of any issues, but then some of them can be vendors to the others. I can't really get into that in like super specific details, but it's a really powerful thing that you can do. So your edge twin might be born, and in this case, it was at this particular company, it was born as a meeting. They just set up a weekly meeting, and we got the right 3 or 4 people in that meeting. And then from that emerged the application that's serving their property acquisition specialists, which now has become something they can deploy externally and carve off as an entire company that has more than enough legs to stand on its own, and has appears to have significant demand. So I hope that sort of helps as an example, Salim. But in that case, about once a month, I run the building an EXO skill against every project that we've run, collected, and stored in their organizational context memory, which is just a database of markdown files that we build out of everything they do. It comes from all the meeting notes. It comes from all the meetings themselves. It comes from individual products that each of us run. All that gets aggregated, and then I rescore basically across rewrite, drive, and shape. And then I brief the team on how we're doing. And what our goal is just to improve the points a little bit each time. And it uses the exact same tools and capabilities I just showed you today, with one exception. I don't really do it out there in that real world using Claude Desktop. I use Claude Code and a much broader variety of tooling that I've developed for that process. How's that? Sorry, I started a little cold there because I was looking off to the side.
No worries. We've got some cool kind of comments going on. We are living in the singularity, and due to listening to the podcast, now anything is possible. We need to take action. Yes, hell yes.
Recently, Musk tweeted today that we're in the singularity. Did you see that?
We've kind of been saying that on a while
on Moonshots too.
On Moonshots. So for those of you who haven't seen it, the episode we dropped over the weekend with Emad is an absolute killer. So I have to go listen to that one a couple times over just to get my head around what happened there. Okay,
Heinrich's
so
question is really good, Salim. We should do
Sorry?
that one before we cut. Heinrich has put a really good question in. When reaching all the way to be an AI native company, have we created automation or augmentation? I have a pretty strong take on this, but that's a pretty cool point. What do you think? Is it automation or augmentation?
No, it's automation. Augmentation would mean that you are enhancing what you're doing already. And that's what people are doing right now is they're trying to kind of improve what's going on now. We end up with a terminology problem, right? What do you mean by each of those? But basically, you want an environment. Let me just repeat the core premise here. It goes back to that Coase's Law commentary, okay? Which is that all our organization, and I mean every organization in the world, is human-centric, human-to-human bottleneck. And therefore, you have to move away from that to get the efficiencies of AI. We're starting to see AI native companies, and they're delivering about 100x the performance of human native companies. So the whole process that we've been talking about is how do we help you move from that legacy to this new animal? And we've got tools and methodologies and capabilities to do it. We've got this pilot running with 10 companies. And we're going through that process because it's pretty clear that the whole world is going to have to shift. And the upside of that is where we end up with abundance, right? So very, very powerful outcomes. That's why we're so dedicated to this, is that we can see the other side of this coin and we can move. I can't wait till we start attacking government departments with this and getting some real efficiencies in government departments. So very excited by this. By what's coming. Okay, Kevin, where are we? And do you want to jump in for a minute? Right. For those of you who are interested in joining our pro program, just put a 1 in the chat, and we'll kind of we'll reach out to you and have a chat with you. We are working, as I said, with companies, and we get together every week for 90 minutes. In this type of time slot, and we coach people actively, help you with your situation. So just ping us and we'll get a hold of you. I want to just open it up to some more Q&A. We've got a little bit of time. Who has some comments or questions that they want to just jump in and get into?
Salim, before we do that, we always err towards action. So I do want people in the chat just put there one action item you're actually going to take after the session, so that you hold yourself accountable. And then we can open up for Q&A for the last 10 minutes. But as we're doing that, please put those action items in there. So that, as I say, you're held accountable.
Before we get into Q&A, put in the chat one thing that you're going to go and do today. And what we'll do is we'll have an AI scour those and reach out to you in your bedroom and make sure you're doing those things. No, we're just kidding. We won't be doing that. Okay.
Perfect. So we can go to questions now, and I think Doug was his first with a hand up.
Yeah. Doug, over to you.
Hi, Salim. Thanks. Great seminar here. I've got a company that's less than 50 people. It took a while, but I finally got buy-in from my management to start integrating AI. We make products. We're a packaging design company. And although we've put chatbots in place and have AI workflows, I feel like we're just creating tools. We're not really creating this transformation. And so, am I stuck in the weeds here, or am I maybe missing the point and need to go back and retool from the beginning the process?
So are you talking about one workflow that you want to automate, or are you talking about the whole company that you want to automate? What's the authorization you have from your higher ups or your people?
Well, I'm the CEO, so
Okay.
I want to retool the company. We've done a lot of workflows. We've done the middle office, from purchase orders to margin calculation, sending off, releasing shipments, and triggering all that. We've even created a dashboard for project development. But so much of our of our knowledge sits with individuals for approvals and design and costing.
Yeah. So what you do there, okay? What you can do for what you're telling me is there's inside the processes of the company, there's a lot of tacit knowledge and experienced knowledge built into the heads of key people, right? And that's actually the hardest
Yes.
to extract. Uh, what you do there is you still do the workflow analysis. You break down the tasks, and I'll give you a hint. This is what we do with our folks: is you want to take the tasks in a particular workflow and divide them up into three categories. Either they're execution tasks, in which case they can be automated, they're analysis tasks, which can largely be automated, or they're judgment tasks, right? And what you're talking about, the sticky ones are the judgment tasks. What you can do is start to surround the judgment tasks and start to automate the execution and the analysis tasks in that workflow. Okay. And that way, you can, there are people that are trying to use AI to oversee and shadow what key people are doing so they can grab that tacit knowledge. There's getting a lot of friction and pushback because the people are scared that they're going to lose their jobs, right? The messaging around that is, look, we want to help you use AI to have you do 100x more and enable you and get rid of what we call, somebody mentioned in the comments, we call it white collar drudgery, right? There's a lot of that in people's work, and we want to help. The messaging is we want to radically expand what we're doing, and we think we can do 100x more. So help us automate the process so that you can be more productive and we can all be more successful. That's the key messaging you can give to them. And then it'll make it easier for them to start to document a little bit the judgment aspects of what they're doing and get that a little bit more automated.
I would
Okay.
I would only double
Thank you.
click on part of that and go back to a prior thing about augmentation versus automation. Make sure people know that they're. I know what Salim said, and we have some differing views on some of that, but the augmentation is critical. You are trying to give them superpowers, and make them 10x, 100x, 1000x employees, even may be possible. We're starting to see some crazy things. But if the innovation is not happening, even though you're doing the automation and even the augmentation, then you might need to focus on what your customers are asking you for. You may wish to take a look at the actual services you're provided, the support tickets left unanswered, the places in the business, and then you can go back to an EXO 2 thing, which is the autonomy attribute, and start to build very small teams, maybe only 1 or 2 people that are giving a lot of autonomy to tackle that issue. And that is where innovative things will emerge that might transform your organization. Things you don't even
Okay.
see. You can't see them. You're blind to them. You have to create this way to see them.
hmm Okay. Thank you.
Cool. Gary, over to you.
This is for both of you. Are you finding in your pilots that the coordination work that you're using agents with, the owners are learning how poorly a job they were doing with a lot of that coordination, and the efficiency of the agents is so much better, and the people are happier because they're now focused on judgment rather than coordination?
We haven't gotten far enough into the pilot to get to that point, but we expect that the outcome will be that for the companies that have already. So the companies we picked in the pilot, we had like 400 applicants for the 10 slots, right? It was like nuts. So companies we picked are people that have already started an AI journey and they're on their way. And where we can add is help them really accelerate the knee of the curve and get them radically accelerated. We tried to pick for those rather than companies that couldn't spell AI and would take the learning curve would be too broad. We picked companies that already started. So some of that they're already seeing, and now they just want to do a lot more of it. So we've got some companies that are like, I forget 2 workflows in 90 days. I want to do like 40. We're like, you go. We'll support you along the way to do as many as possible. So the challenge they've taken on is how quickly can they automate via the support we're giving them, almost all of it. But for the folks that have automated, the people are genuinely excited because of exactly what you said. they're focusing on the judgment aspect where the human being is best anyway, and all the grunt work is being done by AI, which nobody wants to be doing anyway. Like, for example, it was mentioned margin calculation, right? Margin calculation is like just a bog standard thing. You just have to plug it in and get the numbers, put it over there, whatever. If you can automate that, hell yeah, you're now focused on more interesting work to be done. And I think this is, I think, the most underrated aspect of where we'll get to with AI. We'll get rid of all the boring crap that a lot of people have to do and let them focus on really fun stuff. And I think many, many people that are freaking out about AI miss that piece of it. So it's a great point. Okay.
So
We'll
We
report
built a
back.
calculator to let them put their own numbers in. And they not only want to do one, they want to do multiple agents right away once they see the economics, both of operations and of value of the company in the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah. We're
Yeah.
we're seeing some of that already. We expect to see a lot more of that. So absolutely right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Gary,
No,
where that will surface is when you're documenting those original workflows, which you should be doing, because you shouldn't be trying to change something you don't understand, because you could end up just scaling complexity or scaling ridiculousness. So document the workflow. And what will happen is when you expose that, you're actually exposing people. And you're exposing inefficiencies. You're exposing where people have been sandbagging. We found one situation in a financial services company where it turns out that an entire complex financial service process that touched tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, was running through some guy in a trailer in the woods who was manually approving each thing that came in and literally copying it from one system, making a Word document and saving it in another one for someone else to then copy and move, right? So when you start to expose that kind of nonsense, it really does upset people, because that's when they get really scared, because they're like, now they know. And so you're absolutely spot on, but that literally is a real example I just shared. So
crazy. We got to move on. We've got one last question. Leon, over to you.
Hey, Salim. I'm a fan of the pod, of course. Also Canadian. I noticed you did a few things also with Waterloo. So Waterloo grad systems engineer.
Oh, wow.
We digitize solar panels. We enable a solar panel to be programmable on a blockchain.
Very cool.
We are trying to enter an industry that is basically agricultural. Solar panels are basically, stuck together with sledgehammers, Phillips screwdrivers, and it's an analog appliance. And this is a totally a digital day zero from the factory. It's an intelligent panel. It can tell you when it needs to be clean. It can tell you when it's sick or it needs repair. So we can do programmable maintenance, things like that. Big, large solar parks need our system, and we're building an industry that wants a team that wants to be AI first. But there's a real gap between my executive that are very much this dinosaur agricultural set, and I'm pushing so hard against my own internal team. Even though we're
Yeah.
less than 50, I'm going to have to build my own little edge team and just disrupt the fuck out of it, right? That's what it looks like I'm going to have to do, because the pushback is just enormous.
It's unfortunate, but that's the reality of where you're going to end up. And it's the recommended approach is just start doing it and say, folks, you don't understand. We don't have an option here, because if we don't do it, if simple comment, if you're not disrupting yourself today, somebody else is going to disrupt you. And so
we have a moat, we have unique data, but we need to get up there, right? And just ship. And that's, this is our mission now. So the MTP is there, but
where are you based?
Let's go. We're based in Netherlands, but we have companies in around the world. Australia is the best place to build and grow solar. It's the leading one to do that. And I'm in Spain right now. You were in Spain last week. So.
Oh yeah.
One
Sorry, Ken.
Architecture you might think about there, Leon, is the moat you have is real, especially if it's data. And if you create a new code that actually just becomes a client of the old code, but has full rights and data interface to the old code data, then it can do
Yeah.
NewCo things with it that won't be hampered by the old co politics or rules or whatever the heck's going on over there. This is a really interesting modality. It takes a lot of forethought, though, with your attorneys and your teams to make sure that they can't be cut off. So you need a really powerful licensing agreement between the two.
No, I can't Phoenix
yeah.
the company, but I'm tempted, right? It's
Yeah,
and I have to be to Texas, to do this, and so the road show will be in Austin. They're building the biggest parks there, and yeah, that's the road show we're doing.
Excellent.
But
All
it's
right.
a challenge, right? So I think the 50 person cutoff doesn't quite fit for us. We're going to have to just push hard.
Yeah, push hard. If we can help in any way, let us know. Okay. All right, folks, we're wrapping it up. Kevin, can we pass it over to you to say goodbye and any final things we need to do?
Perfect. So thank you so much, Salim, Kent, everybody who's joined us today. We have recorded this. We will make the recording available to you probably tomorrow. And if there are any other further questions, you can always reach out to us. And so thank you all for joining. We look forward to seeing you again and seeing you really building with these tools. So it's always nice to see all the emojis as we go, all the thumbs up and clapping. So thank you, everybody. And see you all building your AI native EXOs.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Take care, folks.
Parade wave.
Have a good day.
All right. See ya.